Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 online action. This time around we are playing on the map Kelp and Coal Dust as the forces of the Skaven against Indypride's Barrow Legion. And if you guys do follow me, if you guys happen to follow me and you do not follow Indy, be sure to check him out at Milk and Cookies Total War. I will be leaving a link down in the description below. Definitely great guy and has lots of good content on his channel. So in the odd chance that you follow me and not him, be sure to check him out. This was one of several 1v1, friendly 1v1 games we knocked out a few days ago. And I thought it was a sort of an entertaining and interesting experience because we kind of discussed what the maps we don't see a lot of and decided, you know, Kelp and Coal Dust, a map you don't see all that often. It used to be pretty popular in the rotation back in the day. And Skaven against Vampire counts, it used to be a match that was pretty terrible. But now with the rework to the Skaven, they've got a lot more tools, a lot more options. And it makes them much more competitive in this match. And we figured, why not try it out? So going over the build here, I am rolling with the Gracier of Ruin. Figured, you know, let's try something a little unusual. Obviously, Scrollcore or Ikit are kind of the meta picks, quote unquote. But I had two reasons for this. One, I just wanted to try something fun. And two, I wanted to see if I could get the Warpstone Scroll to work. Oftentimes, you'll see Vampire Counts players bring flyers. And, you know, the Warpstone Scroll, cool ability, slows, and does lots of damage. So I figured, let's give it a shot. Besides that, for our spells, we do have Death Frenzy to give us that immunity psychology and better stats. Howling Warp Gale to snare or slow flyers. Warp Lightning to nuke blobs. And then, of course, all our bound abilities. We do, of course, have Arcane Conduit for more Winds of Magic. We've got Unholy Clamor, which is a nice leadership and vigor buff to all your troops map-wide. It's pretty insane. Very, very useful for Skaven. Scorch, which is a bound ability. Not the greatest spell by any means, but it can definitely do some hurt. And we do have Musk of Fear, which generates some debuffs whenever I cast. Finally, the bounce ability on the bell is Wall of Unholy Sound, grants you +4 leadership and +5 melee attack. So that's definitely pretty nice. Can definitely help your lower end Skaven troops perform a bit better. Now, besides that, we've gone super wide. If we look at the numbers here, you can see outnumber Indy, whose army is also massive by a pretty sizable margin, about 50% more of an army. And most of that does come in the form of chaff. In the core here, we do have the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, sort of holding the center. These guys can deal with lower end trash. Obviously not going to outfight Graveguard or anything, but they can hold their own for a good bit. Alongside them, just a whole bunch of Clan Rat Spears. They'll hold Skelly Boys for a while, and that's really all that matters. All around them, Skaven Slave Spears, all over the place. We do have some Stormvermin Halberds in the back, including the Regiment of Renowned Council Guard. These guys can provide Guardian to my Lord, and they also do, of course, they are unbreakable, so they can hold their own to the very bitter end. Besides that, we do have 2 units of Plague Monks there to dice up dogs, bats, or just lower tiered infantry a bit quicker. 2 Rat Ogres to provide us with some mass and sting power, and then 3 units of Warplock Jazils to provide us with some range. Kelp and Coal Dust, of course, very small map, so it's easy to benefit from that. Now for Indy's army, he's gone super wide and has a deployment all over the place, which is really awesome, getting that full surround and making sure that he can get up in my face relatively quickly on such a small map, which is definitely important. For his Lord, he is rolling with Heinrich Kemmler. Of course, you got to do that if you're running Barrow Legion. Obviously, you can run other stuff, but that's the thematic pick. And so, of course, he is running with Krell. No way you can run Kemmler without Krell. He's got Cloak of Mist and Shadows for that survivability. He does have Undeath Resurgent. I will note that Cloak of Mist and Shadows is actually really good against Warplock Jazils because nowadays they're a popular pick for Lord Sniping. And this is awesome. 24 seconds of 75% physical resist makes you almost invulnerable to them because you also have that missile resistance. He also does have Van Hell's Dance Macabre, Invocation of the Heck, and Raised Dead. He does have Undeath Resurgent, which is really solid. There's surprisingly no Tomb Blade of Arkan, which you often see, or and it can definitely, or is a Chaos Tomb Blade. It can help you keep your troops in the fight. Besides that, we do have Master of Dead and Curse of Undeath, so definitely some solid support spells. Frontline is composed largely of trash. We've got Skelly Warriors, zombies, and they're kind of spread out here. 2 Shielded Graveguard. We've got Sternsmen, we've got normal Graveguard, and these are very solid units against the Skaven. They can really mess them up, really ruin your day. Up in the sky, we do have a whole bunch of bats, Vargeists, and more bats and Vargeists over here. In the back, there is a unit of Feasters in the Dusk. These guys are the Regiment of Renowned Crypt Ghouls, and they are looking pretty dapper with their blue color scheme. And finally, all the way here in the back, we do have the Chillgeists, as well as a normal unit of Hex Wraiths. So these guys used to be a very common pick, and I think they're still very strong against Skaven. They're ethereal, and they, of course, cause magic damage, fire damage. They cause terror, which is really potent. And me being me, I kind of forgot and didn't bring magic damage. So potentially these guys are going to be an absolute menace. It's also pretty cool to see the Vargas. You can see the Vargas already closing the distance. They've got the cool blue mohawks. Just rocking that crazy hairdo as they close in from all sides. Of course, Indy immediately moving to pincer me. I do push up a tiny bit with my front line, not really looking to sort of push too far because I don't want to expose my Warplock Giselles, but I do see the flank coming in. Do keep in mind, at this stage, we are not seeing any of the Hex Wraiths, so Indy was very patient with these guys, keeping them safe, though unfortunately, because the map is very small, the Vargeists are immediately going to start taking some Giselle fire, and they are definitely not enjoying that. Losing quite a bit of HP there. Same thing is going to happen on this flank as well, where the Vargeists are going to come under some pressure. Over here, the Gracier does dive into the Skelly boys, does some damage, nothing too crazy, but, you know, he does a bit of damage. About 700, so I guess it's better than I thought originally. And the lines are now going to clash. So you can see the Giselles here pivoting, trying to just shoot down the Flyers, prevent them from getting in on my back line. Of course, I'm very concerned about just everything getting overrun. In the meantime, on the flank, Skeletons are getting tied down by Clarinet Spears, and the front line at this point is sort of engaged. Obviously, Clarinets will outfight zombies. That said, Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, for example, will get beaten down pretty handily by Graveguard, as we discussed earlier. Because of that, I'm going to commit my Rat Ogres here, because I made a bit of a tactical mistake. I assumed that at this point I'd seen all of Indy's army. I'm diving in with the Rat Ogres and looking to beat down some of these cheaper infantry. Even as that happens, you can see zombies being summoned here to disrupt the charge from the Rat Ogres, but they still get in there. They're going to maul these boys pretty well. Unfortunately, now the Chillgeists are closing the gap, and shortly the Hex Wraiths will be doing so as well. And you can see the backline here is about to get surrounded by the sweeping maneuver from both the Graveguard as well as the Chillgeists, and that is going to be disastrous for this cheap trash. Unfortunately, though, up here in the sky, Felbat's getting caught by Howling Warp Gale and just decimated by fire from Warplock Giselles. Obviously not ideal usage of their ammo, but just to remove them from play, I think it's very, very useful. Get rid of these annoying harass tools. And just keep them locked in place. In the meantime, you can see or hear the bell ringing as the Gracier is running amok, doing whatever damage he can. Unfortunately, Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, they're getting destroyed, and despite their best efforts here, the Council Guard is struggling to really do much to the Chillgeists, because that bonus for Charge doesn't mean much when they've got their physical resist. In the meantime, we do get a nice little Warp Lightning here on the Chillgeists, doing a bit of damage, though certainly not too impressive, but willing them down for sure. Elsewhere, the Flyers getting overwhelmed by Giselle fire, and the Vargeists are basically goners, just getting decimated. This unit is all but destroyed, trying to swoop in here, get some disruption going. Same thing over here with these Vargeists. And Krell has now been summoned, looking to get in on the Gracier, but I decided to nope on out of there and just back the hell away. I'm not going to give Krell easy kills or easy damage there. Meantime, Rat Ogres, though, getting us around here, doing some damage on Kemmler. Definitely nifty, though. Can't expect them to do too much. And a Howling Warp Gale or Warpstorm Scroll does go down on the Vargeist, and you can see it's doing quite a bit of damage. It's like 100 damage a tick from what I saw, which is pretty insane. And so now all these Flyers are locked down by Howling Warp Gale. I got it off again, and poor Indy's just getting destroyed here, losing his Flyers in pretty spectacular fashion. The Stormmen push up to deal the finishing blow, and these Vargeists just have a horrible time of it. Unfortunately, while things are going very badly for Indy in the backline, they're going much less bad in the front line, where the Hex Wraiths are decimating my Clarinet Spears, making them flee. Unholy Clamor does hold them in the fight for a little bit longer, but not much. These Rat Ogres here caught on the wrong side of the lines, getting slaughtered. And really, the Graveguard is just cleaning house. Plague Monks are not able to outtrade Graveguard at all. They're getting sort of beaten down here. On the flank, the Feasters in the Dusk are getting destroyed by the Plague Monks, but at the same time, they are getting in there. They are helping against the Warplock Giselles and doing quite a bit of hurt. So all in all, things are just collapsing all of a sudden. These Warplock Giselles are still very much online, so we're going to try to get them shooting on the Hex Wraiths, trying to remove those elite units from play. But already we have lost a unit of Giselles, and they're actually going to route completely off the map, which is disastrous. That was still an 18 miles worth of Giselles there that we just lost. Warp Lightning there whiffs, and the Chillgeists just keep running, and things are definitely looking a bit grim. Balance of power is still about dead center, and we are getting rallying troops. Of course, that's kind of the Skaven tradition. You have troops rallying in the distance, and we're able to clean up some of these peripheral troops, which is very nice. But unfortunately, Graveguard is not breaking, holding their own. And here in the center, Council Guard, of course, diving into the fray, tying down all this chaff, as well as Heinrich Kemmler and Krell. But at the same time, they are going to start taking damage. Graveguard, even the Regiment of Renown, not the best holding tool. And yeah, the Council Guard looks awesome with their white fur and all their crazy halberds. But simple fact is that even though Krell does finally just expire here, things are starting to look bad. We're getting surrounded, we're getting bogged down, and slowly but surely getting drained away. Over here, the Warplock Jezzails are getting swarmed by the Hex Wraiths. I simply don't have the tools to protect them anymore. And over here, it is being very good about chasing off my Vulcan Snail Slashers, so getting good value out of the Hex Chillgeists and keeping them safe from getting annihilated. I keep trying to land the Warp Lightning, but it's simply whiffing. The Chillgeists, of course, and Hex Wraiths, very mobile troops, so you're not real likely to land the hits all that often. But I figured it was worth the effort. Unfortunately, the Feasters in the Dusk are slowly crumbling, or unfortunately for Indy, fortunately for me, they're slowly crumbling, so hopefully they'll be removed from play soon. And of course, the Council Guard is unbreakable, so no matter how much fear, terror, or damage is being laid down on them, they will hold their own to the bitter end. And at this point, we are sort of trying to form a last bastion here in the center, rallying our remaining troops, grouping our men, getting these Plague Monks in. Plague Monks, of course, have very good leadership, and diving in with the Gracie of Ruin, popping Arcane Conduit, and sort of trying to run down this infantry. Elsewhere, you can see we are pulling back our Clanrat Spears, trying to recover whatever is left of our army. Unfortunately, though, the Plague Monks here getting knocked out as well, just surrounded and beaten down by the Hex Wraiths. And there's just nothing they can really do, so they're going to get run over here. The poor rats breaking. Sure, Unholy Clamor does save them from breaking for a little bit. But unfortunately, with no Frenzy, they're definitely not going to last very long. Elsewhere, the Gracie of Ruin doing some great work, able to run over many of these infantrymen pretty effectively, especially when he's supported by the Council Guard here, providing him that physical resist from Guardian. But unfortunately, the Rat Ogre is not able to hold out, and slowly but surely the chain routes are happening. Over here, the Chillgeists get hit by an Invocation of the Heck, keeping them in the fray, and that is definitely going to be the seeds of destruction here with the Chillgeists staying alive. I'm not able to shut them down, and the two Hex Wraiths right now are absolute MVPs. These guys up to 162 kills, which is pure insanity. These Hex Wraiths over here have had I guess they haven't, oh, there, yeah, 144. For a second I saw 50 there. I'm like, what? No way. But yeah, they're up to 140 kills. They've gained a Chevron, and they're running me over. So at this point, it's just the last bastion trying to fight its way through. And I figured, you know, it looks grim right now, but we might still have a chance. The Chariot, of course, can run over practically endless numbers of zombies and Graveguard. Sure, it might look bad now, but if I can land a few good Warp Lightnings, knock out a few Chillgeists here and there, maybe we can pull it off. Yeah, they're terror-routing my Rat Ogres, but if I can get those Chillgeists, if I can get those X-Wraiths, and get rid of them, then I can then run everything over with the Chariot. And the Council Guard is holding their own here. They're anchoring me a good bit. So that could be good. Unfortunately, though, there are still some very healthy units of Graveguard who are going to be munching through Skaven for days. I try to get a Crack's Call there, but it just misses completely. Crack's Call, a very tough spell to land, especially if your opponent was paying attention. And Indy, of course, there saw it immediately and just dodged by moving 3 steps forward. But, you know, we are trying to hold together. Gracier is going to come in here, rear charge these skeletons, and run them over. So definitely getting some value there, trying to get in on Kemmler and help out over here. Unfortunately, the rest of the army, much less fortunate with the loss of leadership aura, plus the fact that they're just not very good at holding to begin with. They are going to start feeling the hurt here. The Graveguard staying intact this long is very, very useful. And of course, no longer having the Giselles, I can't really rely on them to kill anything. Gracier popping Arcane Conduit here does get into the back of these Hex Wraiths, who are being bucked by Van Hels's Nance Macabre, but at this point they are just able to dice through these Council Guard, you can see there. The poor rats down to 29 models. Sure, they've got decent stats. We are going to be able to land a Warp Lightning here, channeling it down, but this was, at this point, a normal cast that was out of Winds of Magic, and so they actually tanked through it relatively well. They're getting healed by Kemmler, and at this point it is simply a matter of time before the end occurs. And we can see here the Council Guard down to 21 models, getting overwhelmed. The Chillgeists, of course, running down the rest of my troops. Indy wasn't taking chances, sort of letting my troops rally and potentially come back. And is simply just doing some cleanup in Aisle 9 at this stage of the game. There's so much Graveguard at this point. Even if I was able to take down the Hex Wraiths, it's really unlikely. The Chillgeists, of course, can also help against Grace here, so there's really not much I can do. And that is basically it. If we zoom in, we can see some craziness going down. The Hex Wraiths just surrounding the Gracie of Ruin. And they are, of course, going to have more than enough mass and more than enough damage up to cleave through him. He does have 100 armor, which is useful against Graveguard. He does some damage. We do try to get a Crack's Call from max distance there to sweep through these troops, but at this stage it just doesn't matter. It's nowhere near enough damage, and that is going to be the shatter and the death. The last two Council Guard, of course, do not break because they are true champions of the Skaven race, and they are going to fight tooth and nail here, surrounded by undead monsters, just coated in blood. I'm not even sure where is this blood coming from. You've been fighting ghosts and skeletons this whole game. So yeah, the fact that they're coated in blood is a little bit odd. the poor Grace here being escorted off the field by a horde of very angry Shellgeist, and that is going to be game. Hextrace just coming in clutch and really crushing the poor Skaven. Valiant defeat. So really well played to Indy. The Hextrace use, very good. He was really good at dodging, and I think that the Warp Lightning, and because I hadn't brought any real source of magic damage, I didn't bring Sensor Bearers, I didn't bring Warp Lightning Cannons, I didn't bring Deathglow Bombardiers, anything, Poison Wind Bombardiers, anything of that sort. I didn't even have Skrulk, who does magic damage in melee, and because of that, I had no real counter to the Hextrace. So that ended up just swinging that whole battle, I think, in the long run. Because initially, things definitely looked pretty good for us. So we were able to snipe down the Vargeist. You guys saw the Warpstorm Scroll and the Howling Warp Gale tying down hordes of bats and the Vargeist and just demolishing those units. Not the hugest investment on Winds of Magic for me. And I was able to remove about 3,000 gold worth of units from play. So that was very, very useful. And in my opinion, it was actually the Warplock Jezzails paid for themselves there, essentially. The problem was that then the Hextrace came in, and I had no real counter to them. And the front line, of course, I was going to lose that, but I kind of figured I can afford to lose it if I get rid of all of Indy's supporting stuff. After that, whatever ammo I have left of the Warplock Jezzails, I can sort of snipe down the Graveguard. I can run them over with the Graceseer. But Indy got into the cookie jar with the Hextrace, overran all of my Warplock Jezzails, and then the Terror routes just chained off, and I wasn't able to maintain the front line. I do think some better use of Unholy Clamor, as well as some better usage of my Graceseer of Ruin, could have potentially helped me a lot there against the Hextrace, but ultimately what I needed was some magic damage. And in what form, I'm not sure. I think perhaps a unit of Plaguemonk Sensor Bearers would have actually been a good choice there. Maybe the Regiment of Renown Sensor Bearers could have definitely been a huge boon. Ultimately, the Clan Vulcan's Tail Slasher just didn't really deliver, and I think I might have been better off ditching them and maybe cutting a Stormvermin, or maybe the Tail Slashers and the Plague Monks, and freeing up some space that way for a unit of sensors, just to get that magic damage. Besides that, I do think I could have used the Frenzy ability, Death Frenzy, to give my units immunity to psychology, because that could have also prevented some terror routes and unfortunate fleeing from the field. But yeah, otherwise, the build was fun. It was definitely entertaining to see, and I do feel that Skaven are now in a much better spot than they were before in this match. For Indy's build, of course, a bit limited because he did choose to run the Barrow Legion, so you don't get access to all of your Vampire Lords. But all in all, I do think it was a pretty competitive build. Obviously, it won. I don't have much critique. Unfortunately, the Vargeist just didn't pan out. And I think from what we discussed, as well as the game's outcome, he kind of underestimated how quickly the Howling Warp Gale goes off cooldown. The spell has very little cooldown, and it came in clutch there because I was able to chain off the Warpstorm Scroll, the Warp Gale, and get basically 3 snares off within the space of just a few seconds, and that was very, very important for shutting down the airplay. But ultimately, those Hextrace, great choice. They're an amazing unit in this matchup, still, despite the buffs to Skaven that they've received. And Indy just handled them masterfully there and sort of ran me over. Graveguard were also just amazing. 120 plus kills on every single unit of them. They were just cleaving through. And obviously, it was a lot of trash, but they were just doing work that whole game that I was not really able to match with much, except maybe the Plague Monks and the Council Guard. But still, it's definitely some rough stuff there. But very well played to Indy. If you guys haven't checked out his channel already and you do follow me, be sure to check him out. I'll leave a link down in the description below. If you have any comments, criticism, questions, don't hesitate to put them down, and I will respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.